Crosby's hot takes with Bryan Hayes. I'm very excited about our first question for Bryan because when Bryan started doing this segment with us, one of his most popular, a hot take that went very viral is that Bryan thought that Sidney Crosby needed to get out of Pittsburgh, go somewhere else, go win another cup. Well, Rob Rossi of The Athletic has recently reported that Crosby, in fact, will be staying in Pittsburgh on a 3-year deal worth around $10 million a season. So when you heard that Rossi report, AZB, what did you think?
I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed in Sid. How could you not listen to me? Come on, Sid. You owe it to me personally to allow that hot take to come to fruition. I remember it vividly. Get Sid out of Pittsburgh. It went viral down in Pittsburgh in particular. I'm not exactly a popular guy. But listen, credit to Sid and his loyalty. It's his life. It's his career. He's very comfortable there. He's built an incredible legacy. And I think what needs to be concluded here is that it's no longer about winning Stanley Cups, because I don't believe Sidney Crosby, Kyle Dubas, anyone in that Penguins organization can legitimately believe that that is a realistic goal in the next 2 or 3 years. And it's not like he's going to play another decade here. We're talking probably a 3-year deal, maybe 4 years left. He's still at the top of his game or real close to it. He's still one of the 10 best players in the game, which is just an incredible achievement for him. But it's about individual success now. You know, he's chasing Mario Lemieux down in terms of all the team records. If he really gets hot and stays healthy for 3 or 4 years, maybe he can chase Yager down. You know, maybe he can become second all time in points, which would be an incredible individual achievement. And I actually think this could benefit Canadians in the long run, Jay, because he is such a driven athlete, and he is a winner, and he's such a class act, and he's such a leader. And I don't think a lot of that energy is going to go into the club team down in Pittsburgh because, again, I'm not sure they're going to make the playoffs again anytime soon, let alone chase a Stanley Cup. But he'll be there at the Four Nations Cup, and he'll be there at the Olympic Games in 2026. And that is Sidney Crosby's swan song. It's almost like Messi going to Miami, right? Like he doesn't care about MLS Cup, but he's still going to do what he can with Argentina. Feels that way with Sidney Crosby. It's not about cups anymore. It might be about Olympic gold. And the fact that he did what he did in 2010, did what he did in 2014, if he can do that in 2026, that's, you know, putting a bow on just an incredible career. Keep adding to the personal statistics and just be a great ambassador in Pitt. That's what we're talking about here. I wish it weren't the case. I'd love to see him move on. I'd love to see him come up to a Canadian market. I think that would be just an incredible storyline. But that's selfish. I'm in the content game. I give opinions on hockey and sports. So it's not my life. It's not my career. If this is the case for Sid, so be it. I'm still rooting for him. I love him as a player. And he's a great Canadian athlete, a great hockey ambassador. And we'll see him at the Olympics in 2026.
It was cool seeing him at the Copa quarterfinal, too. That was awesome. You know, over the weekend, Bryan, we heard from Leon Draisaitl's agent. He said Leon wants a deal done by the end of August. So it seems like the green light has been given for Edmonton to sign this guy. But if you're an Oilers fan, at what point do you become nervous if an extension hasn't been agreed to?
I think it's still until you get to camp, right? Like you've got all summer. Let's not forget, they went to Game 7 of a Cup final. Like Leon Draisaitl, the Oilers front office, they were preoccupied. The Oilers front office was immediately preoccupied with the draft, with free agency, Jeff Jackson seeking out a new GM, with Ken Holland leaving. So there was a lot on their plate. Draisaitl has another year left. He will be there for camp. He will play out the season. That is my belief. I think that's the belief of most people in Edmonton. And like you referenced, Draisaitl's agents open to the idea of talking about extension. I don't think it's as much about when the extension happens. It's what that extension looks like. And I'm going to go TMZ a little bit on you here, Jay. Connor McDavid's getting married later in the month. You know, big story here in Southern Ontario, in Toronto, up in Muskoka. I'm sure it's the same thing out in Edmonton. People are aware McDavid's getting married. And this is all going to be linked, I think, Draisaitl's future to Connor McDavid. And why I bring McDavid's marriage up is because obviously he's preoccupied. But at some point, I'm sure Draisaitl and McDavid are going to have a chat and try to work this out. What does the future look like? Right? Because I think they're mostly tied at the hip. It feels like if Draisaitl's going to be there long-term, McDavid's going to be there long-term, and vice versa. And I know people are really anxious about that in Edmonton, but it does feel like that could be the case here. So Draisaitl has a year left. McDavid's got 2 years left. I'm not as worried about when this gets done, if I'm an Oilers fan. I'm more worried about what it looks like. If you're the Oilers, and if you're an Oilers fan, you want Draisaitl to sign for 8 years. Give him 14 a year, 14 and a half, whatever.
Yep.
He's going to push the envelope. He's going to get paid more than Austin Matthews, be the highest paid player in the game. He deserves that. And then McDavid will go above him. If he signs for 8 years, that's incredible. But if he signs for 1, then what he does is he matches up with McDavid. You guarantee Draisaitl and McDavid for 2 years, 2 more years. That's an incredible get. There's 31 other fan bases in the league that would do anything for that. But it might open the door to one of them leaving, both of them leaving. So I don't think it's as much about when this happens. I think Oilers fans are comfortable. Draisaitl will be back next year. They'll go for it again. Maybe it's a last dance situation. Maybe it's a Kawhi Leonard in 19 situation with the Raptors and they chase the Stanley Cup. But if McDavid's linked and Draisaitl doesn't sign long-term and it comes out that maybe McDavid has indicated he's not going to sign long-term, that's when really the anxiety starts to get crazy and the panic might set in. I don't think it's about timing. I don't think it's about this upcoming season. I think it's about Draisaitl, McDavid, and their overall future in Edmonton. And I think we'll find that out more than likely post-McDavid nuptials and certainly by day 1 of camp. That's when the heat's really going to start to pick up. And I think people in Edmonton, understandably, will want some sort of clarity on what's going to happen with the future of Draisaitl and, again, by extension, Connor McDavid.
I think Harvey Levin would be pretty proud of what you did right there, buddy. Before I let you go, Kevin Kilbane, I know he was on your radio show Wednesday. He started off our show today, and I called Canada a soccer nation at one point, and Kevin, sweetest guy ever, laughed at that. And I think he meant that in the kindest way. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. Are we a soccer nation yet, Bryan Hayes?
I think we're getting there. I really do. We're hosting. Right? I think as a host, you got to show us that level of respect. You look at the ratings, you look at the buzz, you look at the numbers, you look at the fact that we made it to semifinals of Copa America, and who knows? Maybe we beat Uruguay, or maybe we get, 3rd spot in the Copa America. That would be obviously an incredible achievement. And with the expansion of the World Cup, Jay, to 48 nations every 4 years, I think Canada is going to be a permanent fixture in the World Cup. So are we on level with Argentina, Brazil, England, Spain? Maybe not, but Kevin's Ireland? Yeah, I think so. I'm sorry, Kevin. I think we're on par with Ireland. And if Ireland's a football nation, then so are we. Step aside. Canada's here. We're not going anywhere, and I'm going to declare it right here with you, buddy. We are a soccer nation.